they have the best tradition now in college football, even though it's only been going on for a couple of years. They wave to the children's hospital there that looks over the stadium. That's really great. I always see them as an average team. You think they're always going to be good, and then late in the season they fall apart. They kind of let everybody down. I think their rank is probably appropriate. I think they'll probably finish about right there too where they're at.
I just made some false news a while ago. I said that the Washington State Huskies, they're actually the Cougars, not the Huskies. The Washington Huskies are further up on the list. So wanted to make sure I clarify that. Didn't want any angry angry mascot fans coming at me. There's a lot of mascots to know and to get used to out there. One mascot I do know is another Big Ten, Iowa Hawkeyes.
We just did Iowa, buddy.
Son of a bitch. Well, excuse my French. What? I'm on a roll. Let's go with Wisconsin Badgers. I know that one for a fact. I honestly think, speaking of Wisconsin, we were talking about them earlier, but I think that they're underranked. I think they should be farther up on the list. But again, you mentioned it earlier. It's still early in the season, so we still got plenty of time. But my goodness, coming out in number 19, I thought they would at least be in the top 10.
They might finish in the top 10. They're really good. And then Jonathan Taylor, the running back, is one of the top Heisman contenders. You put him right behind Trevor and Tua, and then you're talking Jonathan Taylor. I think he's the only non-quarterback that's a Heisman candidate right now because Justin Herbert is hot. He's in for the Heisman. Jalen Hurts. These are all quarterbacks. The only non-quarterback that's a Heisman contender right now is Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin has what it takes this year. I wouldn't say a playoff team. They need to get going. They need to not let fall to these trap games later in the year like they usually do, and they take a loss in a game that they should win. But I do think Wisconsin is a top 10 team. Maybe not playoff material. Maybe they're considered a playoff contender. With me, they're kind of not, but I do think they're top 10. It wouldn't surprise me if they actually did make a playoff push, though.
I'm on a roll because I know this mascot too, Michigan State Spartans.
Yeah, it's another one. Michigan State is sneaky good every year, and people always pick them to do really good, and then they kind of fall flat, and then the years are supposed to be down, they do really good. So I don't think they're a playoff team either, but I do think they're probably going to start, what number are we on here, 15, 16, 17? I think they're a top 15 team. I think they'll finish the year in the top 15.
And I have to admit, I'm going to go out on a limb on this next team because I do not totally know what their mascot is. This is going to be the new thing for me. By the end of the season, I'm supposed to know the mascot name of everybody in the top 25. But the UCF Pegasus, is that right? I could be wrong on that. I could be totally wrong on that. But that's what's coming to my mind. What the heck is a
UCF
Pegasus?
Is the knight. Pegasus is a mythological horse with wings, but UCF is the knight.
Isn't that the mascot?
No. No, that's the knight.
All right, put that down on my correction list. I want to be able to score at 95% or higher by the end of the season.
That is that group of 5 team. You always hear the group of 5 now past 2 or 3 years. It's always UCF. Undefeated season 2 years ago, claimed the national championship, which is pretty funny to me. Now they bring in Brandon Wimbush from Notre Dame as their quarterback because Mackenzie Milton broke his leg. Then his backup came in did really good. His name escapes me right now. Tore his ACL, I believe, back in the spring. He's out for the year. Brandon Wimbush transfers from Notre Dame to UCF. They get a huge win the other night. They don't look like they're going to slow down any at all. UCF could be right there again, knocking on the door as with another undefeated season, and then we're going to hear about them again. They shouldn't be in the playoff, but then you have to look at their schedule. They went undefeated, but strength of schedule. That's what it comes down to. That's why they cannot get to the playoff.
That's always the reason. That's the reason. Strength of schedule. Strength of schedule. So, yeah, craziness. Now, I do know the Auburn Tigers, and Auburn plays tonight, but what are your thoughts? Auburn, again, another surprise there. Another team I thought would be in the top 10. They're number 16, the Auburn Tigers.
Well, we should highlight this game because this is actually the game of the day. College Game Day, I have it on the background, is actually at the Auburn-Oregon game. Is Gus Malzahn on the hot seat? Seems like he is every year, but
I would think so, yeah.
Well, here's the reason why he's not going to be on the hot seat this year. I do think Auburn is going to be good enough to make a bowl game, and I think they just need to make a bowl game. Not one of these Christmas Day, run-the-mill bowl games, but I wouldn't say, one of the New Year's Six either. Just a decent bowl game. They could pull out 7 wins, maybe even 8 wins. I think Gus Malzahn is fine, and the reason why is because he's starting Bo Nix, who is a true freshman quarterback. It takes time to get a true freshman quarterback into the mix, take live bullets in college football, and actually be very productive in running the offense and getting these big wins. I think the reason that he keeps his job because they still do win 7 to 8 games. I know they're in the SEC. They're probably the 5th, 6th, or 7th best team in the SEC. But starting a true freshman quarterback, and they still do win about 7 games, keeps Gus Malzahn. And this is a bigger game for Oregon tonight than it is for Auburn. So I'll just throw that out there too.
Another Big Ten school in the top 25, and that's at number 15, Penn State Nittany Lions.
Well, who do they got after losing Trace McSorley last year at quarterback? I don't know who their star players are. It could be a good year for Penn State. I know Wisconsin is going to maybe take the reins here in the Big Ten. Michigan's supposed to be really good, but they're supposed to be good every single year. Question marks are with Ohio State and Ryan Day and Justin Fields coming in at quarterback at the transfer from Georgia. What are they going to look like? How good are they going to be? Penn State could be in the mix here to top the Big Ten.
Here's a game that I wanted to highlight and talk about this week, and that's Utah against BYU. In-state rivalries, but BYU seems to always be right there. And I think this is a year, and I honestly say this, I know it's early in the season, but I think that BYU will be right there in the mix of things, even though they're not in the top 25 right now. I don't think they are. They might be. I haven't moved up my whole list. But either which way, BYU and Utah, the Utes, I know they're not in the top 25. BYU isn't. But BYU is certainly a school that I would keep my eye on and keep it as one of my early predictions to be in the mix at the end of the season.
BYU or Utah?
BYU.
All right. Well, they just got.
I think they're one of the dark horses that nobody's looking at right now. That's going to sneak in underneath the radar.
Well, they're on the radar now because they just got destroyed at home by Utah. So that was a Thursday night game, I believe. So I don't know. We'll talk about Utah, the actual ranked team here, who might actually win the Pac-12. It's between Utah and Oregon.
The Washington Huskies, and then we've got to move into the top 10.
Yeah, what do we make of Washington? I don't think they're pretty good. They might be a little overranked right now. We don't know. They could finish about the same where they're ranked right now at the end of the year. They could drop back some too. I just think between Oregon and Utah, and then Washington State could trip up Washington. They're going to hit some speed bumps along the way. They're still going to be a pretty good team. They're going to finish good, maybe even make a good bowl game. But this ain't the Washington team from the past couple of years. So they're going to take a step back this year.
In the essence of time, we're going to have to pass on Texas A&M and Oregon, right into number 10, the Longhorns of Texas.
Well, are they back? Sam Ehlinger, another quarterback, Heisman hopeful. We'll see. I do like that team under Tom Herman. They seem to be recruiting like how Texas should be recruiting, getting all the great players from Texas. That wasn't the case. After Mac Brown left, the recruiting really fell off, and then Charlie Strong came in. He's the destroyer of programs. You see what he did now at South Florida. They just got blanked or crushed by Wisconsin. That's Charlie Strong. So they're getting out of the Charlie Strong cycle, getting into Tom Herman. I think Texas is probably back, so we're going to see.
Well, here's your time to shine. Go ahead and climb up on your box here, because up at number 9, see, I rhymed 9 and shine. You see what I did there? Rick Riggin, your Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Well, they got 2 things against them already, at Michigan and at Georgia. All right, so those are going to be tough. Even if they lose both those games, I think they still win 10 games. But I should say there's 3 things against them. The third thing is they play 7 teams this year where that team, their opponent, has a bye week before they play the Irish. So 7 opponents this year get an extra week of preparation for the Irish before they play against them. So that is also tough. So it's not just the 2 tough road games. It's also the bye weeks that Notre Dame has to contend with when these other teams are preparing to play in. But I still think Notre Dame, they're really talented. So they've still got one of the best offensive lines in the country. They probably have the best defensive end combo with Aquara and Khalid Kareem. They just got those tough road games. If they can get past one of those games, if they can get a win at Georgia or at Michigan and lose the other one close, they still might be in playoff talk because of that schedule. So, but we'll see. I still think they're talented. If they lose both games, I don't think they'll finish in the top 10, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm already nervous. I'm going to the game Monday anyway. I'm nervous about that, even though it's Louisville and we're a 3-touchdown favorite. I just know how it goes.
Well, let's move on to the Swamp. Florida Gators is another team that I think that people are just like going through the motions with, and I think this is definitely a Rose Bowl playoff team caliber if they can get the nod from the committee. Therein lies the problem, because we already know that it's going to be Ohio State, Auburn, and Alabama. So who's going to get that number 4 spot? I mean, we haven't even played a game really this year, and we already know who's going to be in the top 3. We shouldn't know, but we do know. And maybe I'm wrong, and hopefully I'm proven wrong. But especially, hopefully Alabama's not in it. But that's just what's going to happen. But Florida's one of those teams that could definitely be in the playoffs this year.
Well, they didn't look good last weekend against Miami in Week 0. You know,
but they're still 1-0. They're still 1-0.
But man, they did not look good. That was just sloppy all the way around. Felipe Franks, I think he might be an average quarterback at best. I do like their head coach Dan Mullen. I don't think they finished in the top 10. Playing the SEC, and if they're going to play like that the way they did against Miami, they're probably going to have about 3 or 4 losses this year. So not a top 10 team the way I see it right now.
Well, you do make a valid point about them being in the SEC. The committee has their
those are the only points I make.
SEC is great schedule. We talked about Michigan earlier. Jim Harbaugh. I mean, he's got to come out. And again, we talk about it. Well, okay, it's just Army, but we talked about Army has a very good shot of beating Michigan. I think the bigger story here is that if Army beats Michigan, the chatter is going to begin real quickly, and it's not going to stop. I know he used to be a quarterback for the Colts, and I know his brother coaches in the NFL, and he coached Andrew Luck, so he's got a lot of acclimates. He's got a good resume. I just don't think he's got what it takes for Michigan Wolverines. But maybe he does. I don't know.
Well, one thing they're going to do this year, he's given complete control of the offense over to his offensive coordinator. How long is that going to last before he butts into the play calling? I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what to make of Shea Patterson. I feel like he's just average, and that's not going to be good enough at Michigan. If they lose to Army or even win close, you're going to hear the chatter. And it might even start with the quarterback change, because I think that fan base is just itching for Dylan McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey's younger brother to come in. Last year against Notre Dame, I think Patterson got kind of banged up and sat out a few plays. McCaffrey came in and looked pretty good against the Irish in the first week of the season last year. I think that fan base is going to get fed up with Shea Patterson quick if he's just an average quarterback. I think we might see McCaffrey first. I don't know if Michigan is going to be any different than what they have been the past couple of years. They've no Devin Bush, no Rashawn Gary, no Chase Winovich. They've lost a lot of great players to the NFL. They don't have the talent this year, I don't believe, on defense stuff like they had last year. So I think there's some tough games, especially if they got Notre Dame at home. The schedule's in their favor. They got Ohio State at home. So all their tough games are at home, but I do think they slip up to 1 or 2 of those games.
All right, Rick, we got to wrap it up and put a bow on